Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our weekly tropical weather outlook, our weekly video discussion. Today is January 4th, 2025. Happy New Year to you. We're on the first video of 2025, and there's a lot to talk about today. Once again, not necessarily with tropical weather, which we'll get to, as a part of our weekly video things in just a little bit, but we do also have to talk about winter weather and severe weather as well, because it looks like things might get active once again over the next several days, especially as we head into the beginning of next week. But we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Let's start off with a look at our global tropics. I'm looking at the globe in terms of tropical activity because, as obvious here in the northern hemisphere, not really our time right now. We're in the middle of winter, obviously, duh, it's January. But in the southern hemisphere, as I always like to say, even if activity is not occurring with us right now, activity in the tropics is almost always occurring somewhere because it is the winter and fall right now, or we're probably going to get into fall in just a few months, but it is the summer right now in the southern hemisphere. And because of that, they are having tropical activity, although not much right now. There are a few invest areas in the southern Indian Ocean. I'm not sure if they're going to develop or not, but there is some activity to track while the rest of the globe stays quiet. Let's take a look at the sea surface temperature anomaly map from the NOAA Coral Reef Watch. Always updates a day behind, but it doesn't really matter. At least we have these updates daily. At least this does update daily. Taking a look at what the map shows right now, very warm Atlantic, especially through the deep tropics, Gulf of Mexico, northern Atlantic. And I must say, in terms of hurricane season wise, this does actually kind of look like a favorable Atlantic setup, at least with the horseshoe shape extending from the northern Atlantic down into the deep tropics, especially here off of the coast of Africa. This will be something we'll watch over the next several weeks. It is a favorable look for the Atlantic, although, once again, it is January, the year just begun, so there's really no worth in speculating right now in terms of what this means for the hurricane season this year, because there really is no correlation. It's too early on, but I will say, if the Atlantic does remain as warm as it is right now, it obviously could mean interesting things for the upcoming hurricane season this year. But once again, this is something we'll be watching over the course of the next several weeks instead of worrying about it right now. In terms of ENSO, we still have La Nina out there. Weak La Nina, obviously, it's not anything too powerful. It is also downtrending a little bit. It is beginning to weaken right now. You can also see as well some warmth beginning to pop up in the Eastern Pacific. It all depends on how much does the equatorial Pacific warm over the next several weeks, or does this cold remain? That'll also be something to watch for hurricane season, but also for winter weather as well. This is the latest weekly sea surface temperatures anomalies updated from the Climate Prediction Center. This is a value that's released weekly every Monday, so it is a little bit old. But the latest weekly update is at negative 1.1 Celsius in the Nino 3.4 region. So we do have some sort of La Nina ongoing right now, although I'm pretty sure we're probably at max right now, because if you look at the SOI, you will see has been downtrending. We're in a positive SOI right now, but it's definitely not as strong as it was, especially in the 30-day average. Compared to several weeks ago, especially when we were in the middle of December, and that's when we really saw strong trades across the Pacific. It's beginning to weaken a little bit. Obviously, it will depend how much does this positive SOI weaken, and it's important to watch the SOI because it's a measure of the pressure patterns in the Pacific. When we have stronger SOI, it means stronger trade winds, which in turn helps La Nina, and obviously negative SOI does the opposite. While the 90-day average, on the other hand, and I guess this one is kind of the one you look at a little bit more for if we're actually in a La Nina or not. We're trending at exactly 7 points positive, so we do have an atmosphere that is generally responding like a La Nina, but it's kind of maxed out over the last several weeks, and I'm pretty sure especially if this 30-day average trend continues. We'll probably see the 90-day average downtrend a little bit. But overall, atmospherically, does generally seem like we're in some sort of weak La Nina phase. It all depends on how long this does last, which will impact, once again, the rest of the winter. And of course, will be something to watch as we head into hurricane season. Let's move on, though, now to United States weather, because as you know, and as I did say at the beginning of the video, let me actually refresh the satellite image. It's not working. Okay, now it is. Wasn't working for a moment, but I was able to get it working. But United States weather is going to get a little bit interesting over the next several days. We are watching potentially a winter storm for the southern mid-Atlantic, including places that have not gotten, a significant amount of snow in quite a while. And it looks like they might actually get snow this time around as we head into the beginning of next week. And there's also going to be some severe weather in the south. Right now, along the eastern part of the United States, not much happening. I guess maybe a little bit in the way of probably some lake effect snow happening right now. And then we have out to the west, you do see that there is a system brewing. This is going to be the system that we watch as it moves eastward to potentially bring heavy snow to certain portions of the Midwest and then the southern mid-Atlantic. And you could see on the current National Weather Service warnings map, it's completely lit up, especially through the central United States, extending all the way from Nebraska, or this is Kansas. Nebraska is here, but this is Kansas. But there's also a little bit of Nebraska too. Most of Nebraska actually in winter warnings right now, but southern Nebraska, winter weather, winter storm warnings, Oklahoma, not Oklahoma. Keep on getting my states mixed up. Sorry about that. Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, all the way out to the mid-Atlantic, including portions of southern New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, Virginia, and around the D.C., Maryland area under winter storm watches right now, but they'll probably go to winter storm warnings in just a little bit. But the bottom line, we're going to have a winter weather system that'll slide eastward. Some areas will probably see as much as a foot of snow depending on where you are, but this is especially interesting for the mid-Atlantic, especially around the DC area, because they have not gotten significant accumulating snowfall in quite a while. So they're going to get a first for that. I guess is, a little bit of a New Year's present, if you will, some snow. Well, I guess that's a good present, especially if you're in the Northeast. But let's really quickly take a look at some of these snow totals, if they do have the snow total forecast. But depending on where you are, we're going to go to winter weather. Let's see. Washington, D.C., 6 to 8 inches. Portions of northern Virginia, generally 6 to 8 inches. And as you go further out to the west, and obviously generally around southern Maryland and northern Virginia, the general target area seems to be around, at least for highest totals, seems to be around 8 to 12 inches. So some areas definitely looking at as much as a foot of snow. And let's see how this extends further west. 6 to 8 inches generally. So 6 to 8 inches and up to a foot, depending on where you are throughout the central United States. But this is going to be a winter storm that slides eastward. Let's see how this plays out on the GFS. Enough talking about what's going to happen. Let's actually look at the models to see how it plays out. And you can see low pressure develops in the south around tomorrow afternoon. It slides eastward, brings heavy snow to portions of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And then, depending on where you are, there's also some sleet that could be involved. And then in the south, you notice as well some severe weather too, noticed by these stronger precipitation values with the rain. And we'll get to that part in just a moment. But moves in. The snow seems to hit around the southern northeast around Monday, so this is going to be something that opens the week. Generally expect several inches across portions of southern Maryland, Maryland as a whole, Delaware, southern New Jersey, and of course the DC metro area. and then it moves out by Tuesday. And then after that, you see a high pressure begin to develop over portions of the northern plains, and we're going to subsequently see a huge Arctic outbreak that everybody's been talking about for at least the last week or so. That's going to take over, and we'll see very cold temperatures, especially across the entire eastern half of the United States, and most of the central United States as well. And obviously, that'll mean something else when it comes to setting up for potentially winter weather to continue in the east, um, as we head into the middle of the month. And you could see that on the 12Z GFS, that play out exactly, but I'm not going to show it right now because we're getting past the 7 day time frame with that. But it does show the cold weather kind of having its effects, in terms of potential winter weather, especially in the Northeast. And there's, I'm sure, a lot of people talking about it on Twitter, but we're not going to focus on that much right now. But let's see really quickly the snow totals, on the GFS. There we go. Yep, depending on where you are, expect a foot of snow, especially through central and southern portions of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and northern Kentucky. The totals could get as high as a foot, maybe even a foot and a half of snow. And then the snow field does also extend a little bit further to the north. And this really depends on what exactly happens. Does the low pressure strengthen? Does the storm get strong enough? And the precipitation field is able to expand to the north, because in past model runs, some places as high as far north as even New York City, got several inches of snow, accumulating snow, while of course the current GFS only has barely, a quarter of an inch or half an inch of snow at most for the New York City metro, and some even including some portions of southern New England. But that really depends on how strong does the low pressure get, and does the ridge to the north weaken or remain strong, that this storm kind of remains on a straight eastward track, through the mid-Atlantic and then out to sea, and confines most of the heavy snow to, the southern mid-Atlantic around Virginia and, at most Maryland and southern Pennsylvania. We'll see, but that's the winter weather aspect of it. The severe weather aspect also comes into play, because if you look, Storm Prediction Center for day 2 tomorrow, enhanced risk across portions once again of Louisiana, Mississippi, and also a little bit of southern Arkansas. There is a decent tornado chance with this, 10%, and there's obviously wind and hail involved. Doesn't look to be as significant of a setup as what we saw, I think, last week. If you remember, heading into or coming out of, Christmas, we had a pretty significant severe weather outbreak, in Mississippi and across the deep south. And looks like you guys are going to get more severe weather. Doesn't look as significant as last week, though, although the tornado chance definitely is enhanced, as much as a 10% chance, and that is pretty significant in terms of at least tornado chances. So we'll see if anything major does happen, but regardless, winter weather and severe weather does remain. Day 3, once the severe weather chance moves on into the southeast, doesn't remain as strong though, and then as we get towards the day 4 to day 8, the potential remains too low for any other, severe weather events to occur. So activity getting strong. When weather is picking up over portions of the eastern half of the United States over the next, several days. If you're in a winter weather area, enjoy the snow. Sending my kindest regards from New York City. Would like if you give us a little bit of your snow. But obviously, prepare, have your shovel ready, and of course, if you're in school closing areas, enjoy. But also stay off the roads too, especially if you are in the sleet area, because conditions on the roads can get treacherous. So be careful. And as for tropical weather, we'll continue to do these tropical weather outlooks as we do every week on Saturday. And we'll obviously, as time goes on, as we head into the spring, we'll get more in depth on hurricane season and what we should watch for potentially this year. But for now, it is only January, and there's still too much time to really be focusing at length of hurricane season right now. But obviously, that'll change in the next several weeks as we head further and further into the new year and into the spring, and eventually, by the time we get to June, for the start of the Atlantic hurricane season. With that being said, I'm going to close it off for today's video. Really hope you enjoyed what you saw today. And if you're asking if I'm going to post more on this potential winter weather event, maybe I might tomorrow post another video on what to expect across the mid-Atlantic for this winter weather system. And of course, for severe weather as well, because we do have that. Other than that, stay tuned for my updates on Twitter. And if you're not familiar with my Twitter, it's the same name I have here on YouTube, Danilo Evangelista. I'll probably be one of the first accounts. Be sure to follow me there. Like, comment, subscribe, share with family and friends, as I always say. Be safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. And we will talk again very soon.